Most people don't know this, but Lake Erie, it has an astonishing 3,000 shipwrecks. That is the highest concentration of shipwrecks in the world. With Lake Erie being in my backyard, that was the best place for me to train for rowing the Atlantic. It was the September before my December crossing, and I am pulling my bright yellow 19-foot rowboat on Cleveland's west side. It was my last big training row before the Atlantic. I had planned a 40-mile training row from the west side to the east, anticipating it would take about 10 to 12 hours to match the 10 to 12 hours I would be rowing on the Atlantic. You see, rowing an ocean and on open water, it's nothing like rowing in the gym. It's kind of like trying to row while riding a bull. It's awkward at best, and it's dangerous at worst. If I don't time every single oar stroke just at that right moment, that could mean bruised knees or broken ribs. So on this training row, like most of them, my focus was all about the catch of my oar stroke. At some point during that training row, the winds, they began to change. And I realized that going on a training row on that day was a huge mistake. If you know anything about Lake Erie, you'll know that it is one of the most shallow of our Great Lakes. So that means that when things change, they change very quickly. I was trying to maintain about a mile away from land, but as these waves and as the wind started picking up, I was just being sucked straight into land. I know that might not seem like a big deal, and it wouldn't have been if Lake Erie was lined with sandy beaches, but it's not. For the most part, it's these steep cliffs and jagged rocks. So I knew that I needed help, and I needed help quickly. I call for help on the VHF radio, and I go back to the oars. I am rowing as hard as I possibly can. My lungs, they are on fire. My quads, they're burning. My back, I'm giving it everything I have, and it's not enough. And that's life. Sometimes you can be giving everything you have, and it's not enough. I'm getting sucked closer and closer to land, and the only thing I can think to do is to let out my oar to brace the impact of my inevitable crash. With that first crash, my oar, it shatters completely. I'm thrown back into the lake 2 or 3 more times, and this is life or death. If I land at just the wrong angle, that would be me, not my boat, crashing into these cliffs. Eventually, I'm wedged into these cliffs, and I climb my way to the top. When I reach the top, I am blinded by all these bright lights, and I see an ambulance, I see police cars, I see all the neighbors in the neighborhood out to see what's going on. I'm rushed into this ambulance, and they ask me how I'm doing. They ask me if I'm okay, and there's only one word that is coming out of my mouth, and it is, my boat. My boat, my boat, my boat. If you ask any ocean rower, it is not a reality unless and until you have this boat. You just can't go to Dick's Sporting Goods and pick up another one, unfortunately. Seeing my boat shattering against those cliffs was like seeing 2 years of planning and seeing my dreams shattering right in front of me without being able to do anything about it. It was too rough out there, so no boats could collect mine. I go back the next morning, and it's worse than I had imagined. Because it was still too rough, I hire a crane, and it's lifted. $2,000 later, it's retrieved from the lake, and again, there's people surrounding me, taking pictures of me, taking pictures of the boat, and they're asking me, if I can't even row on Lake Erie, what makes me think that I can row the Atlantic? Because it was such a public failure, national media was quick to hop on board. Let's see. There was an article in the New York Times saying how I would be a very unlikely addition to the list of ocean rowers because I wasn't a big burly man, I didn't look muscular enough to do it, and all of that doubt fills me completely. I am feeling like a failure. I feel like I failed my sponsors, I feel like I failed my supporters and the cause that it was intended to support. It brought me back to this belief that I really wasn't the person that was supposed to be doing this. I wasn't the person that was supposed to be this uber ultra endurance athlete. You see, when I was a kid, I did do sports. I did basketball, soccer, baseball, volleyball, anything with a field and a ball, I pretty much tried. In soccer, I was always confused about what side of the field I was supposed to be on. In baseball, you could find me in the outfield picking dandelions. And then in basketball, instead of thinking about the drills that we were running on the court, I was always thinking what ice cream I would be getting after the game and what I wanted to have on it. The one activity I did stick with the longest was Irish dancing. And it was only because my mom told me that if I wanted the shoes, I really wanted those Irish dancing shoes. If I wanted those, I would have to do it for a year straight. So that's what I did. I did it for a year. Once I got the shoes, I quit. I was always there physically, but mentally, not so much. For the most part, I was the bench warmer. And when you sit on the bench for long enough, you just start to believe you belong there. I, at a young age, just figured that that wasn't my gift. And so I never really thought that this would be something that I would do. So in that moment, the easiest option, the most sensible option seemed to be doing this, saying, I quit. I mean, you do need an ocean rowboat to row across an ocean after all. And in this moment, it did seem like the natural response would be to run from this fear. It's in our very DNA, and it's a way of protecting ourselves, but it's also a way of holding us back. If I ran away from this fear, I would be running right into another. It might take days or weeks or months. Maybe it would take until my deathbed, but I knew that if I didn't do this, the other fear I'd be running right into is regret. I knew that if I didn't continue to pursue this dream, no matter what, I would be plagued with that lingering feeling of what ifs, if onlys, unfulfilled potential, and unrealized dreams. So in that moment, it was making that decision to choose the struggle and the reward that comes with doing hard things. Everyone was very nervous as I was continuing to pursue this endeavor. My friends, they were nervous. My family, super nervous. And I did have some school kids that would write to me and express some of the concerns that they had. 1 month before I set off, I got a letter from a 10-year-old named Justin, and I am going to share with you some of his parting words. Hello, Katie. I think your quest to row across the Atlantic has gone too far. You know, you could run into sharks and stuff. Besides, what gave you the idea to row a boat anyway? Why by yourself also? If I were you, I would at least go with someone else, so if your boat sunk, someone would get eaten first. That's why you shouldn't row alone. Sincerely, Justin. Well, Justin, I think he brings up a pretty good point, but I tried to convince anyone to go with me, and that I had no luck doing that. So let's fast forward to January 3rd, and I am in Dakar, Senegal, the most western part of Africa, and I am taking some of the first few oar strokes of the million it would take to cross. On my 19-foot boat, I had 2 sets of oars, 4 iPods, 300 chocolate bars, and I was as determined as I ever would be. I experienced everything you would imagine spending 70 days alone at sea. The sunsets and the sunrise, they were absolutely stunning. Where else but the ocean can you see this unobstructed view of both the sunrise and set? And it would always be this rainbow of color across the sky and mirrored right back on the water. What was there to feel lonely about when I had so many visitors? I had visitors below the water, like sea turtles and pods of dolphins that surrounded my boat. I had visitors above the water, like birds, albatross, and then even some passing visitors, as I would be a moving target for flying fish that would often fly right into me or my boat as I was rowing on my merry way. There was the moment that I thought I was hallucinating at night. While I was rowing, I started to see some glowing in the water. And I didn't know anything about this, but there is actually bioluminescence out on the Atlantic. So it was a glowing plankton that would be activated with movement. So when I looked into the water, I could see glitter, what looked like glitter all around my boat, all around the oars, with my oars and through those oar strokes. And it was one of my favorite moments of seeing that at night. There were the moments where I had close calls with oncoming freighters, the moment I thought I ran into pirates, still don't know if they were. I had 25-foot waves, and who would have thought with being in hundreds of miles of open water that I would have 2 fires, but I did. I had 2, and this one was an electrical malfunction. And then there was the day that I decided that instead of rowing, I would much rather spend all of the day in the cabin eating all those chocolate bars and watching Harry Potter movies on my iPod Touch. So I claim this as my mental health day, and technically I could have ended the journey in 69 days instead of 70, but I definitely needed this day as well. Oh yes, and then there was the day that I felt like giving up, like I felt like I had put it all out there and there was nothing left. Typically, when I do these endurance challenges, the halfway mark is a big point of celebration. After you reach that halfway point, you can say to yourself, I'm closer to the end than I am to the start. You could say, I know what it took to get me here, and now I just have to do it again. So I was expecting to have those feelings like I normally do. When I reached the halfway point, instead of having that feeling, I felt like I had given everything just to get to that halfway point. The ocean suddenly felt even bigger, and I couldn't imagine doing it again. 3,000 miles felt impossible. So I gave up. I gave up on that 3,000-mile goal. And I gave in to 1 mile. So I decided that I was no longer rowing 3,000 miles, but I was rowing 1 mile 3,000 times. It was really a matter of breaking it down into that next day, hour, minute, whatever I needed to do to really break it down into a manageable chunk. If you take enough of those baby steps, you can go a long way. After 70 days, I reached land, and if I have a way to sum it up, it would be that I was winning an Emmy, completing a marathon, and being released out of solitary confinement all at the same moment. I was completely overwhelmed. After arriving on land, it didn't take long. Within about 48 hours, I went from complete solitude to being in front of millions. I talked to Katie Couric, Anderson Cooper, Diane Sawyer, NPR, Discovery Channel, among others. I was even selected as Glamour Magazine's Woman of the Year, meeting people like Oprah and Fergie, Julia Roberts, Jennifer Lopez, all these very famous people I never imagined meeting in my lifetime. They all had the same question for me. They all wanted to know the same thing. Why? Why did I do that row What was the purpose behind it? I mean, you could take a plane across the Atlantic. What was the reason for rowing this boat? And I told them that there was a bigger purpose beyond a personal achievement, beyond world records. And I told them that my why, it's water. Did you know that there is a water crisis in our world right now? Really, it's a crisis. 1 in 8 people don't have clean water, something that I've always taken for granted, something that I've never gone without. These billion people, they get their water from awful places and it makes them sick. From ponds, muddy rivers, dry riverbeds. Sometimes they're getting it from puddles in the ground. Water that we wouldn't even dare give our pets. I learned that if I was born somewhere like Kenya or Uganda or Malawi, that would mean I'd have to walk 4 miles every single day just to get water that wasn't even clean. And I'd have to be prepared to wait and be patient because that line to collect water could be 8 hours long. I thought I was so tough for doing my endurance challenges, but I should have been training with them. As I mentioned, they make their 4-mile trek to collect water, but on the way back, they're carrying it in these jerry cans, so these water containers that once filled could easily weigh 40 pounds. It was shocking. I couldn't believe with all the advances, with all the technology at our fingertips, that so many people were without something as basic, a human right of having access to clean water. After learning about those facts, I learned that there were ways to help. I learned that there were solutions like digging and drilling wells, catching the rainwater, and protecting mountain springs. I learned that for about $50, that was enough to help one person gain access to clean drinking water for life. So these adventures became much bigger in their focus. The adventures, they last a short while, but their impact, it could last a lifetime. As a result of all those adventures, I did not include the Skate for Water yet, but it is 15 different countries that have been able to gain access to clean water. Now it's 95 projects and over 40,000 people have gained access to clean water, with schools and Rotary clubs and businesses and individuals all adding their drop in the bucket. So after rowing across the Atlantic, it was time to go on an adventure of a different kind. 1 year later, I embarked on what I thought would be my toughest endurance challenge yet. The name of the event was Race Across America. Basically, you just start on your bike here in California, and you don't stop riding until you get to the other side. Every minute, every second, cycling. With my friend and teammate, our goal was to break the 2-person world record. To do that, we would need to ride our bicycles 400 miles as a team, meaning we each leapfrog one in front of the other, covering 200 miles and burning up to 10,000 calories every single day. I trained really hard for that adventure, moving out to California so I could train up to 30 hours a week. But there is a saying that it's not an adventure until something goes wrong. 7 days before that race, I was doing my last big training ride up and over the Santa Cruz Mountains, a ride that I've done hundreds of times before. I knew every turn in the road. I knew every landmark. I knew it like the back of my hand. But what made this ride different from all the rest of them is that I fell off my bike. I checked my bike, I checked my gear, nothing's ripped, nothing's broken, and then I try to take a few steps. Immediately I know something wasn't right, and I wrote it off as being a pulled muscle. I go to the doctor to see if he can show me any stretches to do with the race in 7 days. And after going to see him, he said it was a little bit more serious than I had originally imagined and told me that I had a broken pelvis. So that is supposed to be filled in and attached. That's not supposed to be chipped like that. He told me that most people who break their pelvis at my age do it from falling out of buildings or a car accident. He gave me my crutches and told me that there was no way that I'd be able to be a part of that race anymore. I felt like the journey was over before it even began. But if there's anything that I've learned through all these challenges, it's to always focus on what you can do and let go of what you can't. It's not a matter of falling, but it's a matter of getting up every single time you fall. I held on, though, to everything that I had learned from other endurance challenges. Same story, different day. And it's to always focus on what you can do and let go of what you can't. The battle, it's not about failing or falling, it's about getting up every single time. As long as you keep going, you'll get there. As long as you keep going, one step of failure is closer to a step of success. What if failure is not the opposite of success, but what if it is the part of success? Here is what happens next.
Katie and I met about 4 years ago because we both rode the Atlantic Ocean. And now we're embarking on a 3,000-mile relay cycle ride across the US. We set ourselves a really tough target of setting a new world record.
She's doing nice. Stay over, Katie. Just stepped out. She's picked up her arm pretty good. She's bleeding.
So you're still racing with this?
On a hand bike. It's taken something that's kind of a selfish journey and been able to take it to a whole nother level.
Communication, man. All the walkies are busted. We just can't plan anything.
Yeah, definitely getting hard.
Shoes in the van.
We all run on twisted ankles and busted up knees and scratches and bruises.
It's supposedly hard for us, but 5 more minutes on the bike is nothing in comparison to somebody who doesn't have water to drink.
Sunset, man, that was fucking inspiration right there. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. So that is how I got the nickname, Gerbil Girl. Yeah, I earned that one. But what I discovered is that if you have a strong enough why, you could figure out how. Hows are not nearly as important as whys. My why helped me push and dig much deeper than if I was just doing it for myself. in a world so full of this fear of failure, what if the real tragedy is not failing, but in not having something worth failing for? Something we are so passionate about pursuing that nothing can stop us from giving our all, no matter what. The tragedy in life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. My why, it brought me again through my latest challenge, which was here in Ohio. Actually went right through Columbus here, but it was running 11 ultras in 11 days to raise funds for 11 clean water projects in Uganda. So that's running 31 miles every single day. But before I tell you about that journey, I must admit that my journey to running started by avoiding it, by telling myself that running was for Kenyans. It was my senior year of high school, and there was one class that stood between me and my high school diploma. It was a mandatory physical education class. I tried so hard to avoid this class. I tried to see if I could get my doctor to get a waiver saying I was healthy enough. I tried to see if I could write a paper about the benefits of doing these things. There was no way I could weasel my way out of this gym class. So that's why when I was forced to do something I didn't want to, I had one goal in mind. I was going to find the easiest class, and I was going to put in the least amount of effort. I was going to get that easy A and just get on with life. So walk, jog, run. I saw the word walking in there, and so I decided that that was the class for me. All I had to do was put one foot in front of the other, and I could go as slowly as I wanted to. And so that is just what I did. At first, I avoided running, and then it was so boring. So boredom led me to consider crossing the line, literally the line from the walking lane, and sheer boredom brought me to curiosity. I wanted to know, if I tried, could I actually run 1 mile nonstop? Not knowing anything about what I was doing, my approach for running my first 1 mile was to go as fast as I possibly could. 1, because I wanted it to be over with, and 2, I wasn't sure how many minutes, how long my lungs and my legs would last. It was absolutely miserable. There was no runner's high found on that 1 mile run. Nike has this saying that the more you push, the more you're pulled, and that is one big fat lie, because the only thing that I felt was pulling was my breakfast. It was not fun. But maybe I didn't get that runner's high, but I did find something even better. A lot of people will use this word before running, saying they ran a mile, and they'll put in, I ran just a mile, or I just 1 mile, to describe a 1 mile run. But 1 mile, or that just 1 mile, was just enough for me to open a whole new world that I didn't know existed. I didn't know was accessible to a benchwarmer like me. Here's what running 1 mile taught me. Just because you think you can't do something, that doesn't mean you're right. That 1 mile run, it showed me how wrong I was. And it made me wonder if I was saying that about other things, telling myself that I can't do things that, in fact, maybe I could. This was no longer about blaming it on a coach that wasn't putting me on the field, but it was about me not even putting myself in the game. Endurance also gave me something that I never found in team sports. And in team sports, you either win, you lose, sometimes you tie. In endurance, you get to uncover and discover what is the limit, what's humanly possible. So I tried 2 miles, then 3, then 4, and every single mile was celebrated like I was running a marathon. After my first marathon, the rest is history. I was wrong about thinking I couldn't run a mile. I was wrong that I thought I couldn't run a marathon. I was wrong after thinking I could run 100 miles or 140 nonstop. It was time for me to put my mind and my body to the ultimate test and set off to attempt the Guinness World Record for the most consecutive ultramarathons run in a row by a female. So here is a quick little video about that journey. Running is nothing more than a series of arguments between that part of your brain that wants to stop and the part that wants to keep going. A battle between fear and faith. I never dreamed I could run a mile. I never dreamed that I could run a marathon. I never dreamed that I could run 100 miles straight. I was wrong. Running 11 ultramarathons 11 days in a row will be a huge emotional, physical, and spiritual challenge. The limit, it's in your head. Whether or not this is possible is a huge unknown. Can it be done? Never try, never know. There's only one way to find out. Day one of that journey, totally in disbelief. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe we convinced all these people it would be a good idea. Day two, my legs could believe it. Stairs became my new enemy. Walking up and down stairs with my legs feeling like bricks, it was super challenging. On day three of my toenails decided to get up and leave the party. And then there was day 7, that magic moment. A lot of runners will talk about the runner's high, and it was just this ultimate state of flow where I didn't care what mile it was, and I felt like I could go forever. On day 9, I was running through Amish country, and there were a lot of buggies. So when I was feeling like I was being slowed down, I thought that maybe I stepped in something I shouldn't. But with it being over 100 degrees, I found out that it was actually the road, the tar melting to the bottom of my shoes. So aside from doing ice baths and massage, the new nightly ritual became chiseling out the tar that was melted to the bottom of my shoes. Oh yeah, and day 10, that was the day where I had a quick speed workout when I was chased by 2 pit bulls. On day 11, I find out what it feels like to be Forrest Gump with dozens of local runners there to encourage me until the end. My journey, it ended at Edgewater Park after 341 miles of running. My journey ended, but theirs was just beginning. Funds raised through that run meant that 11 schools in Uganda, and over the course of a few months after that journey, it has reached 11,000 students that will have better health and more opportunities like getting an education. But the truth is that the world doesn't need more people running around doing more ultramarathons. It needs you, it needs me, it needs all of us to boldly show up and live the lives that we were called to. Starting today, starting now, starting with a clear vision. Create a vision that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning. One of the biggest things in my journey through all of these endurance challenges is the power of visualization, just imagining that whole journey, what it looks like, who I'm with, how do I feel, what's the end result. Really taking the time to reflect, to journal it, to write it down, and it has a better chance of becoming a reality. Starting with a plan. A goal without a plan is just a dream. For me, I have my goals scrolls. I actually have wrapping paper, and I mind map and write out and break down all the ideas and find mentors and build a budget and do all of those things so that you can think through every little step of the way. starting with positivity. Optimism is a muscle that grows stronger with use. Take your negative thoughts and challenge them. Challenge them to see the positive, whether that's writing on your mirror or writing a gratitude list before you go to bed. Surround yourself with positive people and know that life is hard, but having a positive mindset makes it easier to face the challenges ahead. Our goals and our dreams, they may be wildly different, but the process, it remains generally the same. But it's really not a lack of information. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard these things before. It's a matter of using the information that we already have. If there is any advice that I could give you as you start your next chapter as presidents of your Rotary clubs, and any advice as an endurance athlete, it's this: you don't need to be fearless. You can feel nervous and afraid and intimidated and doubtful. You could fear the fear, and you could do it anyway. I've done a ton of adventures, and I was afraid of doing them all at some point. I've never done an adventure that didn't scare me. You don't even need to feel motivated. Motivation, it typically happens after you start, not before it. It's kind of like that late friend at the party. If motivation shows up when you do. I have run, cycled, and rode ridiculously long distances, but I never felt like it at first. You don't even need to believe in yourself. There is this saying that whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. But I disagree. Endurance has shown me that you could do even more, even if you doubt yourself every step of the way. You can too. The only thing you really need to do is try. Whoever you are, whatever you're going through, someone else has gotten to the other side of it. Why not you? Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you.